Good afternoon, everybody. It's a muggy day in Ontario. I'll give it a few minutes to let people log on. We're going to have a good talk. I get a lot of tags. I'm really happy about that. In other political party posts or MP posts, and people are questioning, and that's good. Sure, tag me. I'll always like your comments as you try to spread the message out to all Canadians. It's so very important. I want to have a talk today. A good friend of mine, Callie Temple, she runs a women's independence group in Alberta. Real smart woman, very smart. She works extremely hard on research. She delves into the deepest look in so many areas. Just a wonderful researcher, great person, and we'll be talking soon when I get back to Alberta. But what I want everybody to know, when we deal with UK, which is where Canada comes from, it's our Canadian system, inherent of the UK. Small c, unwritten, uncodified constitutionalism, meaning the politicians run absolute there. It's where our monarchy system comes from. But there's a huge difference. There is a huge difference between the United Kingdom and Canada. And today I'm going to explain that to all of you, because many Canadians are bamboozled here. They think that somehow a system's going to run good because, well, it runs good in other Commonwealth countries, i.e. the mother country, United Kingdom. But here's what you all absolutely need to know. Doesn't matter if you talk about Western blocs, this new Maverick idea where they have all these grand concepts, much like the Bloc Party in Quebec and representing the Eastern Bloc, but it never really works. It destroys the country as a whole, and it never really delivers. And then I'm going to go into that. When I get into Quebec, I am going to absolutely do what I've done here in Ontario and continue to do in Ontario. When the restrictions go down, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to give you all the real narrative. But not to get sidetracked, we're going to get right back to what I'm talking about here. United Kingdom, they run on a small c system, much the same as Canada. They actually didn't even get into any real constitutionalism, never have. They've always had issues on civil rights. However, that all changed absolutely in 1946, and by 1948, United Kingdom was a much, much different organization, institutionalized than any of the other Commonwealth countries. What am I getting at? Well, United Kingdom, for one, is a UNSC Binding 5 member. They have one of the great powers in this world, which gives United Kingdom tremendous international strengths. We see it in finance, we see it in supply and value chains, we see it in the influence of many countries around the world. Now, they're getting weaker all the time. Countries are saying, you know what? Take it. I'm out. I'm done with you. We're seeing it with Barbados right now. We're seeing it with Brazil. They're getting out of it. Now, why is that? UK is a 5-country member nation. They have 5 sub-UN states. 5 UN states. There are no regions. Their regions are UN recognized country states. 0 regions, meaning there are no internal provinces. There are no internal territories. There's no internal anything, no states, none of that. None of that, Canadians. You are just one UN state called Canada with 10 provinces, sub-regions, and 3 territories, sub-territories. You are not represented, those sub-regions, territories, and provinces. 13 of them. You are not represented whatsoever in the United Nations. Absolutely not at all. Nothing. So when we get into constitutionalism, the very limited codified constitution of Canada, the powers all rest in the federal, and then they give a division of powers to the province and territories that are not backed up by any international representation, none whatsoever. Individually, each province and territory must get organizations, must try to fight against the UN state called Canada to try and fix things. Very seldom, if ever, that ever works out for any of them. United Kingdom, although small C like Canada, which shouldn't really work too well, the difference is all of those 5 member nations of UK all have nation status represented in the United Nations and are absolutely covered under all treaties. This is not the same in Canada for provinces and territories. When you need to fight the Canadian system, they're protected. Your federal government is protected in international law. You are not. This is why Canadian citizens and many groups are always eternally fighting for their civil rights, for promises made by the government that are broken, constantly broken all the time. It is also why premiers of all provinces and territories that swear to this crown will break you in the name of the federal government to get their piece of the UN state, the power of the UN state. Now, it's true, yes, every province and territory can break away from Canada. You could all individually have your sovereignty. You could get that going through the UN and getting nation status. You have to win absolutely all 5 of the binding 5. You have to give them a presentation. You have to honor all international treaties and commitments. This also includes all First Nations, the First Peoples, regardless of the designations done by law or from the First Peoples themselves in their different regional groups and groupings under various treaties. Some of those treaties are absolutely backed up in international law, and others are not. There's a huge amount of division placed by none other than Canada on those groups. But there is a way in the international community. I'm going through it right now, the real international court, not the, guess what, Canada's international court where Canada is voluntary to, which is what is sold to all the regional groups. That's what they do. They sell you into an international court, but it's the wrong one. It's only binding if the UN state voluntarily accepts it. And Canada never does. Just so all Canadians, First Nations know, your UN state called Canada will never accept it. Now, Canada has obligations internationally, but they've codified a limited constitution that divides powers. They give the provinces and territories rights to 2/3 of what the world says all people should have. 1/3 goes to the federal government, and the federal government's able to ignore international law often by allowing those regional groups to do their bidding, taking away your civil rights in order to steal your charter rights, which most overlap all human rights in this world. But it's getting the Canadian politicians to the real court, the International Criminal Court. I'm going through it right now. I have one more phone call to make early this morning when I get up, and we're going to find out if I get to go through to the UK and go into a sitting with all the former International Criminal Court Supreme Justices of this world. That's absolute. Get to talk to a former slew of living prosecutors of that court. That's what I'm up to. An unbelievable gift if I can get in there. We're going to find out early this morning, as UK is 5 hours ahead, and I am on night shift, so I've already missed this phone call. I got one early this morning, and now I have another person from that organization to talk to again early this morning after work. And I'm going to do that for all of you, and we're going to see what is what I can do, and how far I can take things. Absolutely for the James Coates, absolutely for the First Peoples, for the first time in Canadian history. That is my important goal here. That's what I'm going to do. But whether you're a separatist, whether you're a bloc group who wants more powers of specific regions, realize as it stands today, unless you have UN state status, you will have nothing, and you will be subjugated absolutely to Canada. And you already are. We all are. That's what they do. We're seeing it in this gross spotlight of COVID-19 that just highlights in an extreme fashion, getting so many of you to come forward and question. And of course, none of your politicians, as you're all learning, none of your politicians want to answer to any of that. The Privy Council members, oh no, it's not their fault. They were made to swear that, oh, it means nothing, they say. They say, ask of all those former Alliance members, Reform Party members. I can go back through provincial and federal parties, all the way through Confederation, and time again, they sold all of you down the river. Very, very few provincial leaders. I can count on my hand. I mean, there's probably more throughout Canada in all the 10 provinces and 3 territories. But there's also a rich history of just how much people were thrown under the boot and even into revolution, where you can go to Toronto's legislature, very, very old legislature, where they celebrate the Northwest Rebellion and the heroes that put down the rebellion and those brave soldiers who hung all the First Nations and farmers of the region over the Trans rail line. That's true. So everybody realize there is no getting out of nothing if you don't get UN state status. Everybody says, oh, don't talk about the UN. UN's bad. UN's bad. It is Canada that operates badly in the UN. It's Canada that gives the NWO their leaders in it. Where do you think the C40 cities come from? They come absolutely from Canada as leaders of the New World Order agenda, the Great Reset, the Great Socialist Globalist Reset. Pick your policy bag, left or right, there's no difference. There's no true conservative. That's always been a word attached to liberal. That's the founding, binding parties of Canada. It is the system that's placed here, comes from the UK. You're never going to get rid of that. They're always going to put progressive and conservative. They're always going to liberalize conservative, because the reality is it's the people of Canada, all peoples of Canada. You're conservative. You work or you produce a service or a product. You balance a budget. You budget your monthly expenses. You live within your means. Most of you, if not all. And in fact, it's the government that doesn't behave in that manner. None whatsoever. Very, very few examples exist in all of Confederation, in all histories. You will see a minority, an absolute minority of any real, true conservative principles of the people. And they've used it to turn the conservative word into a bad word. But the reality is, the only bad word in Canada is the people, as sad as that is. That's always and forever will be, until we address constitutionalism, set constitutions for the provinces, first time ever in Canadian history, because we have regions, we have codified division of powers that are not codified in the provinces themselves. So politicians swear to the crown, swear to the federal masters, and they absolutely destroy all of you, the people. And that will continue. And there is very little to nothing besides gross human rights violations that we can do to address it. And I'm trying. I'm going to go that route, because always go with what you can do, what's real and what's possible. That's what I do. But I'll tell you, until we codify provincial constitutions, talking about nations or independent provinces or sovereign territories getting away, or groups of people, and believe it or not, there are islands right here in Canada of the First Peoples who absolutely want that nation status. And the CCP, the Canadian Constitutionalist Party, will not only make sure you all get your regional constitutions, but you will also get the option of national constitutions too, should you want to separate, should you want to leave the Confederation. If at the exact same time as all of this roll out provincially, territorially, and nation state, if that's your goal, we're also going to give the absolute federal dismemberment, meaning tearing up all of the evils that we've inherited from a system and a foreign power that no longer represents us but gives our politicians that tremendous power. We're going to dismember all that, meaning rip it out, redesign all of it as per you, all the people, all at the same time. And then, with all that in place, then we'll see where the parties align, if we can get that power. But it takes all of you to vote something forward for you, the people. That's what this is really about. Giving you, the people, the power that so many other nations, great nations of this world, absolutely enshrined, some of which hundreds of years ago. And we still stay in a system that isn't supposed to be in this world anymore. But until the people can rise up and take their country to task on it, it will never change. Learn UN state status. Yes, there are rogue UN states with gross narratives. Canada's one of them. Your federal government is not only one of them, but is cutting edge, leading edge on the New World Order. It's Canada, one of the worst among many others of the General Assembly. But remember, Canadians, they don't make international law unless the Binding Five say they do. And you know what? 99% of the time, the Binding Five throw it in the garbage and say, no way. Because we have a charter of the UN, 1945 charter. Read it. From 1948, we have the Declaration of Human Rights, which is international binding law. However, Russia abstained, so it's not truly binding, meaning countries can breach it, and they always can point to Russia and say, oh, look, Russia didn't bind it. They abstained, allowing it to go through, but they remain with this veto forever to be able to veto it. And because of that, every UN state can breach human rights. According to the Declaration of Human Rights 1948, Canada's been doing it the entire time, through its time with UK into its nation state status now from 1946 onward. Even when UK was absolutely removed in 52, didn't matter. Canada continued, because who's going to make them without that signatory from Russia cementing it absolute, just as the 1946 charter? You're limited only to the charter, which is good. It's better than anything that's ever been in this world. But it's up to all of you to try and educate, get the message out, teach all Canadians so they know whatever their narratives are. Because as long as you think that you're somehow going to force the UN state called Canada into your objectives as a region or a territory or block groups federally, it's never going to happen. Never, ever, ever going to happen. And you will always be subject to the federal UN state called Canada and whatever power's elected. And if you think the Conservatives are going to change anything, think again. Do you think the Liberals are? You know they're not. Do you think NDP will? Nope. And you can go on and on, because everybody who gets any elected position will pick up that crown power and put it squarely on their head, and they will be scrubbed down by the wealthy, the elite from all over the world, to absolutely destroy all of your civil, charter, and human rights. Right now in South America, there's a terrific woman. It's all in Portuguese, but they're going through Brazilian constitutional reforms. They're getting into all your issues, Canadians, all of them. In different terms, of course. They're a different kind of former colonial, but they get into a different name for charter, civil rights, and the ability of the UN state to absolutely crush your human rights, even though they're not supposed to. They're working through that in their different terms and definitions. And that's another thing when we get into terms. when USA and Russia have the exact same terms as Canada, but the definitions in each of those countries is absolutely different. You can go in their dictionaries and you'll find out the definitions aren't even close. Russia and USA, the definitions are almost identical, but Canada, the definitions are not the same, not even close. They don't represent anything remotely close to Russia or USA. And they don't even represent what UK used to classify those as. They're absolutely not that anymore. So it's sad. It's sad. We got a lot of work to do, a lot of education, and all of you can do that. So my Facebook, last point I'm going to make here real quick. My Facebook's coming to my 5,000 limit, and it's time to start pages. So while we wait for access to Quebec and the Atlantic provinces, as we wait for COVID to dissipate, and I hope restrictions go away and we can get across borders without issue, and I can actually stay overnight in places and not worry about being quarantined for 14 days. We're going to start developing every single of the 338 Facebook pages. I'm going to go into a lot of groups. We're going to start Facebook pages of all 338. We're going to give that so that we have narratives for people. Going to work on that this weekend if I have a day off. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Share, share, share. Real important. Lots to know. Lots to get out. I know it's a large volume. Little by little we chip away at it. For all those loyal followers, tagging in posts, trying to educate others in other groups and under other political parties when they put their narratives down. Keep doing what you're doing. Tag me. I love it. It's great. Keep sharing truth and knowledge. That's how we win this, by telling the truth. Telling all the people the truth. From all walks, all Canadians, just tell them the truth. Don't get into fights with them if they don't want to listen to the truth, because there's many who will tell you, oh no, it's not true, even though here's the facts, you're the fiction, but that's okay. People don't all respond at the same time. We just keep telling the truth over and over, and eventually people come on board. It grows, it grows. That's the truth. Bye now. Love you all. Have a great night. And I'll update you all tomorrow.